The Freelance, episode 23.
Happy 2025.
Yeah, the first one of 2025, even though it is February.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
it was a weird one this year. Like, normally January seems to last forever. It has like 600 days, but this time it was just suddenly February.
yeah. It's for me. It's felt like both really, when something feels like it's taken forever to go through, but also like when you look back, it's been really short. A bit like a summer holiday when you're a kid. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's it's been an interesting few months. Let's put it that way. Yeah. So we don't actually know if anyone's going to join us today because YouTube didn't really seem to put this up. So we stream using a browser program called Restream, and they've done some upgrades since we last streamed, and it didn't seem when I scheduled it. It didn't seem to actually show up on my channel. So we're just going to have a chat, and hopefully some people might enjoy watching this back and leaving a comment or
Yeah.
something like that, even if no one joins us for this evening. So, Nick, how you doing?
Yes. I'm doing well. It's I say January kind of went past in a bit of a whirlwind, and it's looking like it's going to be quite a busy year in various different ways. But yeah, 2025 seems to have started strong.
Yeah, yeah. It's been
How about you?
Yeah, it's been a big one. I've had had a lot going on. So from October onwards, my entire extended family have all of their birthdays. Um, so it is a very expensive, very hectic few months. We've also had everyone in my immediate family has had the flu, but
Oh,
not at the same time. So I had it first, and then my wife had it and was out of action. So I was looking after both boys, and then the boys had it. So I was having to look after them, and we were both taking time off work. It was
yeah.
full on.
Yeah.
And other family members have been also like had to go to hospital and things. Like my mum fell over while looking after a horse. Uh, uh,
Oh no.
the really bad winds that we've had recently. Yeah, the horse wasn't being like mean or anything, but knocked her over. She had to go to A&E. Like, but it's just, it feels like January has been full of everything. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. We were flu house in the run up to Christmas, which kind of wiped out most of the time that normally over Christmas I'm able to recover and start the year running, and this year was like
No.
but
Okay.
we are
Well,
recovering.
you're recovered. We're
Yep.
recovered.
Yep.
We're getting back to it. It is February, the first Wednesday of February. We've
Mm.
got, is that George in the chat saying
Yeah,
hi?
we've got George. I think there's a few other
Right.
people turning up,
It's nice to see you
which is
guys.
great. Say hello in the chat
Yeah, absolutely.
if you're there.
And let us know how you guys have been in the long dark that we've
Yeah.
had since we last streamed. Um,
Mm.
so for this one, I
Well,
really just wanted to get back into the habit because it's easy to lose a habit, but it's also easy to get one in. So we haven't really done much planning. We're just going to do a catch up. We're going to catch up with each other, guys in the chat. If you want to let us know, because I know there are some faces that we normally see. Let us know what you've been up to, and we'll just do a quick one tonight and get back to topics next month.
mm.
So, Nick,
Well, I was going to say, I know you finished a project this week.
Oh yeah. Which project am I going to talk about? So I have finished a bunch of Perry Miniatures Agincourt era models, um, and it's it's a bit ahistorical. It's a little bit because I when you're painting an army, it's just easier to do it in kind of like a uniform kind of thing. So that's what I did.
Yeah.
The so yeah, the archers and the men at arms and things are all a bit too uniform to be actually historical. But yeah, I'm really pleased with them. It's one of those armies I've actually had it on my shelf half finished for literally years. I think I started it pre-COVID. Yeah, and
I
it just
have a box of the Perry Miniatures Agincourt French infantry,
yeah,
which are half built, and I got those the weekend they were released.
yeah. It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just yeah. I felt like I needed to get uh, get a dopamine hit from finishing a project. Like I've got so many projects sitting around that I just wanted to do on it and get it done. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I've been doing. I did also paint up 20 salamanders for a 40k army. So that was fun. It was nice to do something that had a lot of nostalgia for me, and get that done as well. And one of the things that, like, because I wasn't sure if I was going to post about it because my interests are kind of quite eclectic, and I'm not sure. I'm never sure whether people would be interested. But a friend of mine reached out and told me that me posting about it had inspired him to get some Perry miniatures, and he showed me his as well. So and like get back into it. So that's really awesome. So yeah, I'm going to carry on doing that, and I'll probably share a bit more of my miniature making, just because hey, it's what I enjoy. Maybe other people enjoy it too. I need to stop second guessing that. What about you, Nick? Have you done any projects?
I am slowly plowing through like a project list. I kind of sat down and actually did a bit of planning about what I need to gather up. I've got a lot of bits and pieces on the way. I'm working through. I needed to make a book for Empire, and then Matt and I had one of those late evenings after we finished playing D&D, which also involved doing book things. Then this I went to this last weekend has inspired me to think more about those kinds of pieces. They fit in kind of the normal reenactment context we do, but are really nice to have for the occasional time where you're not in a tent.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, there's so much stuff that yeah, we just don't end up needing. But if we were actually doing, I guess one thing, I'm not sure if I had finished this last time we streamed, but I also completed this, which is kind of a bit like that, in that this is a it's based on a Viking bag, which has like a wooden opening, and I've done it with leather, but I think it was often fabric. But it's the kind of thing that you might not necessarily need if mostly what you do is fighting.
Yeah.
But probably everyone would have had something like that, right?
Yes. Yeah. And one of the things that has come up in like trying to think my way around bookbinding and those kinds of set dressing pieces is realizing that like I keep thinking, oh, I could go see that thing. It's not too far away, and then realizing it's the same place name but in America.
Oh, that's annoying. Yeah, frustrating.
But there we go. I've spent a
Very
lot of time on the Project Gutenberg website for looking at
nice.
book contents and kind of summaries of what pieces are, and going back to my Archaeology of Medieval Bookbinding book to kind of reference construction methods and that sort of thing.
There is so much stuff available online that we just didn't have access to when we started, right? It's just
Oh yeah.
so good to be able to, like, because I'm looking into this 1066 stuff, to have the entire Bayeux Tapestry in like HD. You can zoom in everywhere. It's just awesome. And
Yeah.
great.
I
One of the, go on.
was talking of things online today. I downloaded a font that is the same typeface as one of the typefaces Caxton used in his workshop in like the late 1470s.
Oh, awesome.
And like just having access to that
Yeah.
is just like it's crazy. And also realizing just how long some of the books that Caxton was printing in the medieval period is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. That each one needed to be like individually done, and like the woodcuts, right, would have taken a long
What?
time to
Yeah.
any illustration would have taken a long time to print, right?
And it's super interesting without like going too much like esoteric book things, but the only complete copy we have a Caxton print of Mallory's Arthur, The Death of Arthur. Is printed purely in black and white, including the like large letter for the starts of sections and things, which means that this was a book that was printed for like the low budget range.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't in tethering added or anything like that later on. And sadly, the original covers don't survive. It's got like a 18th century cover on it in the museum in America, but it's just this massive tome.
Yeah.
Where each of those pages would have had to been individually typeset, which is just crazy.
Yeah. Amazing. So in the chat we've also got Josh Lopez says hi. George says he's still recovering from the weekend and wondering what he's meant to be doing
I am
now.
not surprised.
George, what you're meant to be doing now is sitting down, having a rest, and chatting with us.
Process downtime.
Bryce Brown says, hell yeah, share more mini stuff. So we've got to. And Leonidas says, hey guys, good to see you back. Good to see you as well. And congratulations. Leonidas's channel has been going from strength to strength.
Great.
And he's just recently hit 20k subs. So
fantastic.
Awesome. So well done for all the hard work that you've been doing and the awesome stuff. There's some really good documentaries on that if anyone's interested in ancient Greek history and reenactment, then check it out. Yeah, one of the projects that I'm not sure if I said this last time, but obviously I kind of launched my I'm going to go to Hastings project back at the end of October, beginning of November, and very soon after I did that, there's started rumors going around that English Heritage are dialing back their events as of now. So that kind of really shook me, and because I've been planning this for ages, and I really wanted to do it, and I felt like this is the time, this is the point where I can get to do it, and I so that shook me, and I was like, I'm not sure that I want to, like, if I put all of this effort in. And then I thought to myself, actually, this isn't about whether or not I get to go to Hastings, English Heritage Hastings. This is about the journey,
Mm,
um, and um, it's something that I've wanted to research and put together a new kit. So if Hastings doesn't happen, then it doesn't happen, and I'm sure there'll be other situations where I can use an 11th century kit.
definitely.
Um, One such example is, so my local town has Anglo-Saxon heritage. So Kingston upon Thames is going to be doing a Saxon day this summer at some point. So I'm going to look into whether or not there's any opportunities there to do some stuff with that. Which will also involve me looking not just into Norman stuff, which is what my patrons voted for, that I go Norman, but I'm going to have a look at doing kit for both and being able to chop and change. So yeah, that is the aim with that one. Um, I've got some thoughts. I have been looking through the Bayer Tapestry, but that's going to come out in a future video. So
Fantastic.
yeah. Well, that's a lot of projects. We've talked a lot about
Yeah,
projects, and I guess we kind of also talked a bit about research as well,
yeah.
which is um, what we've been
One
doing.
of related to research, one of the things that I've been thinking about is something that I miss from being at university is having ready access to a lot of these university resources. Like you often go to places and they're like, oh, log in with your Athens login, your JSTOR login. And don't have those things anymore. So I am weighing up the relative merits of seeing which of those subscription services is going to be most useful to me.
Yeah, yeah,
Partially because I am slowly running out of shelf space for books.
yeah. Maybe I should look into whether I get anything with being a teacher,
Mm.
because I'm a member of the teachers union, so I could look into that, couldn't I? That would be worth doing. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's so hard to remember. We need to do this more often, Nick, because I can't remember what I've already talked about and what I haven't. So, yeah, I have been doing some research into Norman stuff. Um, I've got a video coming out which is about the type of steel that you should use in a reproduction helmet. I'm going to do another short video about how many suits of armor should a medieval knight have, things like that.
Mm.
I think the short answer to that is more than you think. Um, yeah, it always frustrated me with reenactors. The number of reenactors that would talk about being a poor knight or a hedge knight and wearing granddad's armor, and like it's like no, you can't have a poor millionaire. That's like
Yeah.
basically what you say. In order to be knighted, you had to be of a certain, not just like the son of a knight, you had to have a certain amount of money.
Well, on that subject, actually, a shout out for Arkan Manata, who have put out a couple of these little booklets which
Yeah,
cover things like that, like how much people are paid and like how much a lot of things cost. And it is quite revealing, the kind of weird variant, like difference in things that were expensive and aren't expensive.
yeah,
Um, when you think that like a roasted a roasted hen in the is broadly equivalent to like an entire day's wages
yeah,
for like a skilled laborer is
yeah,
just kind of crazy to think about. But yeah, the cost of things and how much people are paid is
mm,
very, very interesting
yeah,
compared to like how sometimes I think we think about what people needed.
yeah, sure. I think I think things, especially when it comes to stuff like food, I think things would probably go up and down in relation to the time of year as well, right?
Hmm.
Um, I mean, some things would probably just be completely unavailable at certain times of year, but maybe more expensive, less expensive. Like,
Mm.
I do remember hearing that chicken was more available in late spring because of all of the young cockerels that, you know,
You didn't want
they
to keep.
got it. You don't want to keep them, so you just eat them all.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So yeah. Um, and
But yes, shout out fucking Manita,
great. Yeah.
who wrote booklets about kind of money in medieval England, and also you can buy money like reproduction coins from them. So
Nice. So do they go to the markets?
yes, so the company has just like for the first time as part of someone else's stall at
Okay.
Arm in November. I don't know what the plan is going forward,
Okay.
but
Cool.
I'm sure you can get in touch with them via social media.
Yep. Great. If you send me that, then I'll do a post about them as well because that sounds really cool.
Yeah, I will do.
And
I will do.
do some posts and things.
Yeah, I have all three of the booklets that were published in November, and I think there's another one coming because we've got wages and prices in both the 14th and 15th century, and a coin guide for the 15th century, and I think there's a coin guide for the 14th century coming too.
Nice. Very cool. Great. So, speaking of markets, events.
Mm,
So I've not had any
yeah,
events. I've barely had time um, for leaving the house, basically. But you've managed to be a bit more busy than me, as
yeah.
in doing stuff other than basic day to day things. So tell me, Nick, what have you been up to?
Well, I just this last weekend I was at a small LARP event, like live role play event, called the Company of the Garter, which is slow LARP, parlor LARP, mix of things. But basically, it was 15th century household plus shenanigans,
Okay,
the LARP.
cool.
And it was a truly exceptionally enjoyable weekend.
Okay,
It was very, very interesting and very, very different to really anything I'd done before. It was written by Katie and George with help from Daisy and I think possibly a couple other people, but George will correct me in the chat. They had a small crew, like 6 crew members, I think. One person like managing all the kitchen, and then crew members helping out with kind of serving and cleaning up and all of this sort of thing. So I think there were 30 something of us in this beautiful venue in Shropshire for almost 2 full days of role play with a lot of things
yeah,
going on. And yeah, it was great. It was, as I say, very, very different.
yeah,
But um, a really useful kind of window into sort of what how and also Casey and George did a great job, I think, and probably a hefty amount of research to kind of present problems to the players that were essentially problems that people of the status you were portraying in the 15th century had to deal with in their lives,
yeah,
with kind of a additional layer of kind of 15th century mysticism and occultism kind of on the top for the
sure.
people who wanted to kind of explore that.
Okay, cool. So what were some of the highlights of that weekend then? Like, what stands
Um,
out as like a snapshot?
so uh, before kind of talking about like roleplay highlights, like one of the great things about I've discovered about LARP in general is that there's just so many more pictures that you can easily get hold of, and the photographer that they had there took some great photos, including one which I absolutely adore, which if I trim out the section that has like the modern door frame in it and doorway, there is nothing like, I think it's fantastic. Of, you know, just a person in a household. The kind of overall main story that I was engaged with was essentially a murder mystery, but it was kind of the lord of the house has died. His will is very difficult to understand and kind of contradictory. Also, who killed him?
Cool.
Time boxed within the idea that turn up and they will want to take somebody away to hang for the death of the lord.
Okay. And so you had to find out who it was.
Well, I think that was what a lot of players and characters were interested in doing. My character was absolutely convinced that their political rival was responsible for it and spent the entire weekend being like, well, it's clearly them, and doing other things. But
trying to set them up.
Well,
or were they genuinely like convinced, or were they trying to set them up?
So, like, as Nick, the evidence against them was circumstantial at best.
Yeah.
But it was enough for my character Simon Courtney to be like, well, there's evidence that he probably did it.
Yeah.
It's clearly him.
Yeah.
Why is everyone messing when he arrives, and move on?
Okay, cool. I like that. I like that about LARP, in that you can decide, or I don't know, it's not, maybe it's not even deciding. It's just where you realize that your character would think in a certain way, and that your character can think differently than you. So, like the example for me is that Eardred is very in Empire that I went to last year. We got stuck in next to the Navarre, and we ended up having to do a lot more than we should have done. And so, and a few of our household died, and so in my mind, I know it's not their fault, but Eardred would believe that it is their fault.
Yeah.
And so, I've absolutely loved spending time with any Navarre that I have spent time with, but as far as Eardred is concerned, they didn't do their job properly, and Navarre's got stuff to answer for. Yeah, and it's weird. It's like kind of like writing, but you're not writing. You're just. I know that authors sometimes talk about letting the characters decide what happens, and that's kind of what it is, isn't it?
Characters driving narrative rather than the other way around.
Yeah.
Yes, and one of the things that I found really really fascinating is because obviously 15th century service and status is everything, and there is a lot of that in this game, which adds to the realism of everything going on. And there's kind of opportunities to make conscious choices to play up or ignore status.
Yeah.
With the acceptance that there are consequences for those actions.
Yeah.
Sure. And yeah, just in general, it's one of those things where there is an awful lot that happened in that game that I had no idea about, and there were only 30 people.
Yeah.
Playing across essentially 2 large rooms, 1 small room, and an outside area, and there was still like a huge amount that I have no idea what happened.
Yeah.
And when people are talking about things that went on, I have no idea what they're talking about because I wasn't there. I didn't see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the writing team made some like absolutely outstanding props. The letters that we received as part of the game were almost in that way that medieval writing often is. Like the letters were sealed using the 15th century punch method. Like that, the level of attention to detail was outstanding in the game.
Right.
And everybody brought their A game in role playing their character. It was utterly exhausting. In a way that I don't think I was expecting. But that didn't reduce my enjoyment of anything that was going on. It just meant that at the end of the weekend, I was very tired.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure that Katie and George are playing the smallest violin in the world for you right now, because there's tiredness. Whatever they must be feeling. Texas Beast says hello. Mike Powley. Do you know what, Mike? I've not actually. I don't know how to say your last name. Pow? I don't know. You won't be able to correct me in the chat anyway, unless.
And he'll have forgotten by the time you see him. So.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Anyway, Mike says, "Evening all." It's nice to see the usual suspects coming out and just saying hello.
Yeah.
And even though YouTube didn't or Restream didn't show the scheduled thing, so thanks for coming, everyone. If you've joined us recently, Nick and I are just having a bit of a catch up. I want to get back into the flow of things. It's been a busy old few months for both of us. There's been a lot of stuff happening, and just want to get going. So we've not really had a topic. We're just chatting over how things went.
So you asked me about highlights. So there were kind of 3 like large, I'd say, set pieces that the writing team put together for the game. So there was 2 like high status banquets, like table service, this kind of thing, on the Friday evening and the Saturday evening, which were like really enjoyable. There was kind of some shuffling around who was sitting at the high table, where you were sat in relation to the high table etiquette. As I say, the crew did a great job of being service staff, bringing food out, that kind of thing. And then the other big kind of set piece was the constable's arrival and like the dramatic build up to that, where as a group the players were trying to essentially convince Katie's character, who was the then at that point the highest status individual, who she was essentially going to throw under the bus to the constable.
Okay, cool. And was it revealed? Go on.
I didn't get killed.
You didn't get killed,
I was not found guilty of murder.
Good. So was it like any of the players could have been or was it specific crew members that could have done it?
So the setup for the murder of the household lord was that he had died during the players arrived. So there was, I think, 7 players and then like 3-4 crew who were essentially like in the house at the same time that the murder happened. So there was like a subset, and it could have been any of those people really.
Sure.
That ended up being the person who did it. I won't kind of go into exact detail about who done it, as it were. But there was a level of drama and investment that not that I wasn't expecting, but that really brought that kind of finale together in a very unique and satisfying way.
Yeah.
And kind of within that whole trial, there were some excellent moments with kind of characters being like, well, I absolutely, there's no way that they could have done it. They're clearly not guilty. And because the status, nobody in the room was like challenged them.
Yeah. It's a bit like I've in the few moments we've had, my wife and I have been watching The Traitors,
Hmm.
and a friend of ours, Harry Harold, posted saying, "Well done to The Traitors for bringing LARP to the mainstream."
Yes.
And it's very much I never thought about it like that, but it's very much a yeah, very much that sort of thing, right? And people playing roles and all of that sort of thing. But it's funny how even when people know that something is a game, they they still follow like psychological and sociological conventions.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people on
Well,
that were just whatever it is that they knew that they felt about a person, or that like societally they should feel about that person. They went with it, and
well,
yeah,
at one point, another player did say to me that they felt like they had to suspect me because I was too nice and there was no reason to suspect me.
yeah, yeah.
And it's things like that, right? You just kind of get a feeling about it.
So but that's gaming the game, right? Or was it? Was it?
No,
Was
it
okay?
was like you're clear. Like there's everybody has done something. There's no.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
So
I haven't
it
found out
became
what
very
you've
very.
done
So
yet, so you've probably done something that's
yes,
really bad. Yeah.
yeah. And so my character was kind of not unique, but subtly different to many of the other player characters because I was a member of the Lord's household rather than,
Yeah.
which meant that I was kind of in the category of very similar to crew, but
Yeah.
I wasn't crew because I'm a player.
Yeah. Sure.
And like my main sort of political rival was a crew member, and very early on, uh, the name has just completely gone out of my head. That's awful. But the excellent role player who was role playing the steward, who was my essentially rival, he was very deadpan and sinister right from the start, which
Yeah.
meant my kind of natural instinct was to be kind of a bit more personable and a bit more kind of upbeat and, you know, oh well, the Lord's dead, but as long as we keep the house going, kind of thing,
Sure.
which I think made me suspicious in a different way.
Yeah. 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 Um, George says, "Poor Simon." Was it Simon that you're talking?
My character's name was
Oh,
Simon
okay.
Courtney.
All right. So,
Um,
so
yeah.
you weren't intended to be a suspect, but some people considered you to be. Um,
And thank you, Dean. Yes, Aidan. Aidan was playing John Price, who did an absolutely
great.
excellent job, like truly
It's,
outstanding.
I must say,
Um,
having only done one LARP, names is like so difficult because everyone's got at least two. Um,
yes,
some people even more. So yeah, it's good to have people around to remind you. ATF says hello, Zach. Hello, ATF. Nice to meet you.
um,
James, great. James has got a question, but
go for it.
should we move on?
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. So James Morgan says, "Hey guys, opinions on Dunk and Egg story, where they use tawny lances versus war lances during a trial by combat." I don't know that I know what what's going on there. Can you give a bit more information there, James? Because I think I've heard people talking about the difference between, as in recently talking about someone making a video on it. But like I said, I have had very little time to go into that sort of thing and to react to all of the many videos. Leonidas Sparta just today put out a reaction video to a reaction video. So I'm very tempted to do a reaction
It's
video to his reaction video. to a
It's
reaction video.
reactions all the way down.
Yeah, it will just be like the the boom from
Yeah.
uh oh, Inception.
Mm.
Okay. James says it's a George R.R. Martin story. Okay, right. So, yes. Okay, that's where I heard it. It's in the. I think I heard someone reference it in the story that is a Knight of the Realms or something. Um, I've actually downloaded it and I've not started listening to it yet. Let me check in my Audible account. What's it called? A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Is that the one? James, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard someone say it that it's in the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. I haven't read it yet. I've downloaded it. I'm going to look into it because it sounds interesting to me. Now, George R. R. Martin is an interesting one. So, okay, so it's in a prequel to the Game of Thrones. They have a 7x7 trial by combat, and the heroes use tourney lances instead of war lances due to being longer. Right. I think so. That will be a George R. R. Martin thing rather than a historical thing. There is no historical difference in length between a tourney lance and a war lance. Either one could be a wide variety of lengths. Okay.
I would assume that in certain tournaments, the length would be defined for that instance of tournament.
Yeah. So, so what you often see, and every tournament is different, right? So it's not always the same, but basically, you often have the defending team, which are the guys who put on the tournament, and that might be one guy or it might be a few guys, and they're the ones who are supposed to be responsible for providing all of the the food and the space and all of that sort of thing. And they also provide lances for both for everyone. So you don't generally turn up with your own lance. You can in some situations, but you don't generally. But what would happen is, say, if I was the guy who's putting on a tournament and Nick was a challenger and he was riding against me, I would provide two lances for a pass, and then Nick would choose which lance he would like to use, and I would be forced to then use the other one. So we don't necessarily know whether that means that they therefore try to make each lance as similar as possible, kind of like, the guy who cuts the cake is the last person to choose which slice they get, right? So you make sure that they're all the same. Or whether it's kind of a thing of, I'm going to give you a choice of a slightly heavier one or a slightly lighter one, but the heavier one's slightly longer or whatever. Whether there's actually an active choice being made there. And it's very possible that in some situations there is an active choice being made, and in other situations it's just a case of they try and make them as similar as possible, but in order to show fairness, they're letting the challenger have the choice of lance. The main difference in history between a war lance and a tournament lance is the end of it. And even in tournaments, a lance with a sharp point would be called a war lance, and those were called jousts of war if they had that. Now, there are also examples of ridiculously big lances that were specifically used in tournaments, and there are examples where they specifically say, we're going to joust for half an hour with regular lances, and then we're going to do one pass with these really big ones. So that might be also where George R. R. Martin is getting this idea of the extra big war lance, the extra big tournament lance. But it's unlikely, to my mind, that those were actually longer. I feel like they were bigger and heavier rather than longer. So basically harder to break and easier to knock someone off with. Hopefully that helps. Maybe that's something when Night of the Seven Kingdoms comes out, and when I've listened to it on Audible, maybe I can do something a bit more in depth once I know exactly what he's said. But hopefully that's helpful, James. Gaslight Studios Rebooted says, what do you think of the historiography of the build-up to the 100 Years' War as presented in the Accursed Kings series of novels, if I'm familiar with it? I'm not familiar with it, I'm afraid. Nick, have you had any experience with that?
No, that's not one that I come across either.
So that,
and I'm across the Game of Thrones prequels either.
Okay. So that might be something we need to look into for a future video as well. Do drop comments. The chat goes away, but the comments I do keep on my phone. Equally, if you really want to keep reminding me, then Patreon, I have like chats with my patrons, and they often suggest.
This would be your opportunity to do your call to action.
It would be. Don't forget, comment, like, subscribe, all of that sort of thing. I was trying to do it in a subtle way, but Nick's just
no room for subtlety.
So, yeah,
we'll do this as well.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah, Leonidas says I should do a reaction video to his reaction video of Metatron's reaction video, and then get Metatron to react to me reacting to him reacting to. So we could go as deep as we want to with that.
Go on forever.
Yeah. Best war game for large scale medieval battles. Okay, so I've not actually played any historical war games, but I now have an army that will work for Saga and Lion Rampant. So now I can try them out, and I did wonder about whether we do a video about that at some point. So watch this space. But like I said, it's been very busy recently. It's clearing up, but yeah, don't hold your breath. Watch this space. Don't hold your breath.
I have played a lot of historical war games.
Yeah. Okay. So Nick, you can answer this question then. Go on then.
And the answer is, it depends why you're playing the game.
Yeah.
Almost certainly the answer is not any game that is in 28mm scale.
Okay.
Or any game that has individual model removal. I think the best historical battle game, in terms of balancing both a reasonable historical accuracy, let's be fair, that's the reason that we play miniatures games, and presenting interesting decisions, is Warmaster Ancients.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's personally, I'm not a fan of the kind of DBA and DBA kind of child, like descendant systems. Anything that's really single dice resolution doesn't really hit for me.
Yeah.
But games are very popular. And so that's more of a personal thing. If you want really good simulation, I actually think you want to step away from miniatures war games and look more towards either tactical or strategic counter games. The Men of Iron series by GMT Games is a really, really good tactical hex and counter wargame series that covers a wide variety of the medieval period. But it is little cardboard counters on a flat hex map. So it doesn't look anywhere near as cool as pushing actual minis around.
Yeah, I mean, you can always adapt those. You can always like use miniatures instead of counters and things if you want.
Yes.
I think so. The advice that I would give, without specifics, because I haven't played any historical games, like I quite like playing with painted armies, and this is the first painted army that I've done. You can find it on my Instagram, by the way, if you want to check that out. But I think that a really important thing when it comes to war games is to know yourself, and know what you like, rather than trying to find the best game. Full stop.
Yeah.
The and sometimes that will change. So when I was younger, I played a lot of Malifaux, and I really enjoyed it. And I went to tournaments, and I enjoyed the like in-depth interactions that you could get from the cards, and the way that you could um, combo stuff together and do fun little things. The Now that I have a full-time job and two small children, I don't have the brain space for that, and I much prefer something that is small groups of people moving around a small board, um, and doing fun things. So there's these things that Magic the Gathering players talk about, called psychographic profiles, which is basically, what do you like doing?
Yeah.
And in those, I would have been a Johnny, which is someone who really likes coming up with clever combos and things like that. But now I'm a Timmy, which is someone who just wants to switch off a bit and do cool stuff uh, with big models.
It's it's interesting because like I'm actually in the process of selling some of my medieval and historical wargaming armies because I do not use them because the games that I built those armies for don't interest me anymore for various reasons. Shelf here of different different war games rules, and yes, I think Warmaster Ancients is one of the best. The one that I am enjoying the most at the moment is Nevermind the Bill Hooks.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I've seen a lot about that.
That is 28. Yeah, it's 28mm scale. It's like maybe 50 to 80 models aside, depending on like how elite your stuff is for like a game that lasts a good couple of hours. And so I'm really enjoying that, but that is pretty specific to like the late medieval period right now.
But they've also got a skirmish version as well, where you need something like 10 models aside,
which I have not yet played, but Mitch and I keep talking about playing. I am happy to talk a lot about wargaming and historical wargaming in particular, and like the different axes on which like you want to put together. Like it's kind of like the same thing, a similar conversation that you have about the different types of historical recreation we do. Like, are you doing reenactment or living history, or are you doing LARP, or are you doing BOHA, or are you doing SCA? And all of them are kind of pushing towards the same thing of recreating a period of history, but all of them have a set of compromises that they make.
Yep.
And I feel that like historical wargaming is the same in that sense. And so you have to understand, as you say, understand yourself and what you want out of the game, but also what compromises you're prepared to accept in order to get that.
Great. And Gaslight Studios has also recommended Little Wars TV. I've not come across it. but
I have come across it, but I have not watched a huge event.
I will check it out. Thank you very much, Gaslight. And Friday says, comment, no room for subtlety. So, they've said it, not me.
Yeah.
You guys comment down below. Let us know if there's other things that we should, other miniature games we should try. If you're really interested in that sort of thing, if you guys think it would be worth it, then we could, I'm sure, find some way to actually live stream a game of something. I'm pretty sure we could work that out at some
Absolutely,
point.
yeah.
So, at the moment, I'm just I just do it as like a thing in the background. But if people would like our opinions on it and it would be interesting, drop a comment and we can sort that out. Yeah, cool, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, Nick. I feel like this has been a good first one back, but I feel
Yeah.
like we can take a break now, and we'll do something. We'll do something with a bit more of a topic next month. Yeah.
Hmm.
Cool.
Yeah,
So
I think that sounds like a good plan.
cool.
Talking today has given me some ideas for things that we might want to do either on a stream or as a video.
Maybe tell you what, if you send me those,
Yeah, I will.
then I will put up a poll for my patrons
Mm-hmm.
to choose what our next live stream will be on. And yeah, I guess the sooner we do that, the more time we'll have to prepare if it's something that needs a lot of preparation. So
Yeah, maybe not the next one, but like an upcoming one, right?
yeah, sure.
Because a couple of the ideas I have involve us getting guests. So
Okay. Well, yeah, we can see what works. Yeah, let me know. And guys, leave a comment if you've got some ideas that we can add to the docket, because yeah, nothing like a bunch of minds to come up with a good idea.
yeah.
Well, thank you very much, guys. Thank you for joining us.
Hey,
And
everyone.
we are going to do this. We'll do this again next month. I've got some more videos coming out. And do check out the socials and things like that as well. Thank you very much, guys. See you soon.